I don't. Dude, all right, man. Is anybody out there? What is up, yo? What is up? I don't even know if I'm on live yet. Am I on motherfucking live, dude? Finish what? Finish what the fuck is this? Oh, I am live. Okay, sorry, guys. Sorry, Orbs. I didn't mean to cuss. Yeah, this is only my second Facebook Live ever. This is Rocken Larry Locken. You're tuned into the Pleiadian Rainbow Orbs, Pleiadian Angelic Rainbow Orbs page. I'm actually in the process of changing it. Just to tell you a little bit about the page came into existence on, January 25th, I believe, of 2015. It was after I made it after my contacts that I had been contacting with for about 3.5 years at that point. Since probably, no, actually, it was about 3 years at that point. Okay, because I'll get into who my first contacts were before these guys from the seventh dimension came along. So I created this page as an inspiration to them, and yeah, it'll be 10 years old next January. Yeah. Okay. The guests that we're going to have in tonight, it's going to be telepathically. It's kind of hard to catch them on camera. I only have them here telepathically with me now. When I was in the midst of having contacts with them hot and heavy, from say about 2012 probably till about 2018, there's about a close to a 6-year period where I was having them around me all the time, like all these different colored orbs, and you could see them in any kind of light, and even in the dark you could see them kind of in stealth mode. That's how thick that they were around me inside my house, especially when it started getting into the about 8 o'clock ish, my time on the Pacific Northwest coast. Until about, until daybreak, if I, wanted to. They were there. They were just hanging out with me, while I was at my computer and building all these groups on Facebook, YouTube. But anyway, these guys are from the seventh dimension. That's not to say that all orbs are. They go up as high, from my understanding, they go up clear into the, I know at least the 10th dimension. Then you start getting into the angelic realms of, Arcturus. Okay, so these guys were my telepathic guides, but I had visuals on them at all times too. My first guides, the first 6 months I had my contacts, was a group called, and they still are channeled to this day. They're called Larkma. They're out of the sixth dimension. There's a couple. They've got a channel on YouTube called the Larkma Update, I believe it's called. The lady's name is Pia Orlean, and her husband's name is Colin Smith. They wrote a classic landmark book called. It was about Larkma teachings of Larkma, 6 of 1 and 1 of 6, because they were a collective of 6. And that's what they were when they contacted me as well. They're kind of, now they look kind of like a light, like a kind of a shorter, when you see all 6 of them together, they look like they're kind of grouped together, traveling around. They have a clear body. They kind of like have a, I don't know how to describe it really. It's just like a short person, but their body's like clear. So you can see them in front of you if you're zoomed in on them. And a lot of times you'll catch them out of the corner of your eye. I would see them. They would come in and kind of swirl around the room when I started having my contacts, and just to make sure. In fact, what those guys did, just to make sure that I knew that I wasn't going crazy, that what I was seeing was true. Well, what I did was I had them do things like, I know that my girlfriend at the time, before we had split up, that I was dating at the time, she was staying over one night, and it was when I first started having my contacts with them, right? And she was asleep in the bed, and I was still awake, and I was watching them just kind of go around and smile at me and whatever. And I'm like, you know what I said to them? I'm like, this is what I said. What I said, I said, bullshit. If you're real, I'll tell you what. Why don't you guys go around her neck, and why don't you buzz her neck underneath, and make her jump? Like how you have those dreams where you are falling and you catch yourself. You're not really dreaming that you're any place falling. It's just you feel you're falling and catch yourself. Well, I said, that's what I was intending for them to do. And so, yep, right away, within 2 seconds, boom, did it. And I said, yeah, right. Nah, bullshit. Do it again. Yep. 2 more seconds. Boom. I said, all right, I'll tell you what. Third time, do it again. And dude, 3 straight times. I know that was kind of mean of me, but I had to know. You know what I mean? I have an analytical mind. Even though I was seeing it, I had to know. Okay, fine. So they hung around for a little while. Well, all of a sudden they had I don't know, they decided maybe I was ready for a higher, to go one more dimension up. I don't know. I didn't trade them in like a used car for the orbs or anything, but so the orbs started showing up. I mean, and I just noticed them there one day. I just noticed them all of a sudden in the lights. There was gold ones, there was pink ones, predominantly blue and green ones. Um, and then there was ones that were rainbow. You know what I mean? They were all the colors, right? But mainly it was the gold, gold, green, the rainbow, and then the pink ones as well. And sometimes I'd see the purple ones. Um, I only saw a black one time, and we'll get into that. That's not a good thing. It wasn't on me though. It was on a friend of mine. Okay. Yeah, and that was really weird to see that. And then the other orbs got it out of there really quickly. But I only saw that one time, and yeah, if you knew this guy, it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to expect that. So before we bring them in, this is kind of just to give you a rundown. I have a habit of beating around the bush. It's been, the last few months have been the first time that I've been back on doing audio in a long time, and my brain doesn't work as quick as it did 7 to 10 years ago. I was like quicker than a whit. I mean, it was like a hair trigger, the quickness of it then. But now I kind of have to slow down a little bit and do my research, and it just doesn't come to me. But, the way these guys operated is, well, first of all, they explained to me where they were from. Okay, these ones were out of the Pleiades. They come from other places too, but I'll get to that. These guys came from the Pleiades. That was my contacts. Some of the souls with them resided out of Lyra, but really, same thing. The Pleiadians were colonized by the Lyrans when a lot of the Lyrans had to flee from there 1 billion years ago during the wars with Orion. So yeah, it's the same thing. It's just a matter of, okay, now all this time forward, some Pleiadians, yes, they have Lyran heritage, but they're not from there. You know what I mean? They're not indigenous to there themselves, even though their roots are. Okay, so some of the collective on these orbs were from Lyra, some of the elders that were on there. Now, what do they look like in the orb? Okay, they look like faces like us. They look like human faces, smiley little faces. And what they is, they are humans like us, most of the beings in the orbs. Or some of them you'll see are cat-like humans, which are originated in Lyra, and some of them went over to Pleiades too, but that's another thing. They look like us. The reason that they come down in orbs like that, though, is because of course, the atmosphere here is too dense for them to handle. So, that's how they do it. They morph down into that, right? And just like with the 6 dimensionals, they kind of morph down into that light, clear body. Right, it just depends on what dimension you're from and what star system you're from has a lot to do with it. Okay, so most of these orbs would have anywhere from, say, 4 to 6 beings on them a piece. Some more, some of them were bigger, some of them had more. And then some orbs, maybe they only had one. I've seen a few with only one. But mainly that I would notice. I mean, they probably were all around me, but, I'd only look at a few of them and count how many there were in there. They're little. And what you can see is when you see an orb, you see these little dots sometimes, like swimming around in there, a couple little dots. Well, those are beings in there. Those are beings. That's what they are. But mine, kept me company. They answered a lot of questions for me about the universe, about how it was formed, this and that. The one thing you couldn't do with them is you couldn't ask for absolute predictions because they dealt in, and they explained this to me early on, is they dealt in parallel realities, parallel timelines, and you have all that stuff mixing together, and the only thing they could do for me as far as predicting is give me innate possibilities on what could happen, right? Like I asked him some stupid question one time. I thought it'd be funny to ask them who was going to win the Super Bowl of all things, our Super Bowl. And they did give me an answer. It wasn't really what I was looking for, but what they told me was that, and it was right on cue, they told me that because of the parallel realities that they deal in, that every team in that league was going to win that championship, right? Because in some reality, everything happens, every scenario is played out like that. So, yeah, I was like, gee, thanks. That worked a lot for me. But what they were able to do is telepathically give me information, like when I'd have a question about a different star system, or questions about stuff I had read, like about even at the time, like, the Anunnaki. I knocked out Sitchin's 12th Planet book, which is, if anybody's ever tried to read that, the guy he's a miracle, he's wonderful, but reading his work is like watching paint dry. I would recommend, if you're not an absolute, just phenomenal, like hardcore old school reader, listen to the audiobook. Yeah, it's a tough ass read, man. It's not nearly as easy as Chariots of the Gods from that same era, or by Eric von Däniken. But okay, so that's what they deal in, right? They can give you. So I thought maybe, like, if I don't know if I have the chat up. I mean, if anybody's like around here, it's kind of late. And the thing is, I'm going to have them back. This is just a test run to have them in. I'm going to say hi to them right now. Some of them might remember me. I think they do. Here's the deal. I never called them by it. Some people with their contacts, they refer to them by a name. I never did. Okay, I saw pink. I saw the dudes and the ladies on the, the pink one, the blue one. I referred to them and I could see their same smiling faces all the time. So it's like I knew who they were, right? But I never referred to them by a name per se. Okay. It's just Gold Orb. It's Gold Orb. It's the Rainbow Orb. And it would be the same, ones coming back around. It's just I never put a name to each of the individuals on there, I just didn't do it because they were a collective. They were all one, they were like, say, 6 individuals on there, but they were all one collective. So there was no need to say, hey, there's Sheila, Ron, Mark, Judy, and Kim. I mean, no, it didn't go down quite like that. Some people do. Just wasn't, some people's contacts, they look like a human light body in front of them. Mine were orbs. I don't know, just what it was. And then these other dudes. And of course I had ones from the clouds and Merkabahs in the higher dimensions, like you get up into 8, 9, and and even somewhat 10D when it comes to that. But, that's what they were. And there are orbs that are in higher dimensions. Just mine happened to be from the 7th. So, I've got them around here. The reason why I don't have a lot of contact with them now, and lately I have a few times over the past maybe 6 months, because I've done a few channelings on my YouTube channel from them, but I just don't have a lot to ask them because they give innate possibilities. Well, I'm already like ascended enough in the mind to where when I'm looking at a world scenario, a political scenario, whatever, I mean, I can do that good enough now as myself to come up with the innate possibilities, right? So, I mean, whatever happens isn't going to like really, I mean, it'd be cool if something shocked me. I'd love to have it happen, but it'd have to be, I wouldn't know until I knew. But I'm going to see, like, if there's anybody in the chat. I've got my other device up here. Okay, well, and like I said, they'll come back again. It's just, I just wanted everybody to know that they're there, they're out there. If you focus your attention on them, maybe you will see them. I know there's a really, really brilliant lady. She's from Sweden, or she's out of Sweden. I rob a lot of her orb pictures and post them in this, on this page. Her name's Yvonne Ganez. Really, really ascended lady. Really cool. She's also an intuitive healer. Check her out. But her pictures, it's not just her orb pictures. Her pictures are, it's from the divine for sure. Now, she gets a lot of pictures of them. Now, I would assume with her, her guides are probably from higher dimensions. So with her pictures of the orbs probably just visit her. Her contacts are probably a little bit higher up the rung than mine are. So like, whereas I'm contacting them, they're just visiting her for a cup of coffee and some pictures. So It's just kind of how it goes. And, you know, of course, I've been having this thing, too, going on the last few days with the hell's... I've been hacked, let's see, I've been hacked 7 times now. And, let's see, I've had to get my passport, my driver's license. Now I'm back down to doing the cell phone again after that wasn't going to work anymore. Yeah, so if you see them around and you see them through, there's all kinds of angles you can see them through, like whether, I don't know, it's water spraying or whether it's, you know, whether it's through lights or, you know, or sunlight or, you know, it just depends. I mean, that's how you see those kind of beings. You know, it's not just that, oh, there's a speck of dust on your glass and you need to clean that off. Well, sometimes, you know, if you get a raindrop on your glasses, if you're really trying to be conscious and in tune with everything, right, focus your attention on that. Focus your attention on that raindrop. You know, if you ever read Bringers of the Dawn by Barbara Marciniak, you know, she mentions that. And it's true. It is true. There's life in everything like that. You know, I'm not saying get a bunch of dirt on your glasses and don't wash them or anything like that. You know that, but you know, it's subjective, man, really. So I'm gonna just see if anybody's got any questions. And yeah, it's been a real long day for me too. So this was kind of done on a whim. I kind of had them come to me and like, okay, they're like, maybe it'd be a good idea to do a test run, right? And especially this time of night, it's, you know, I mean, out here where I'm at on the west coast of the USA, it's almost midnight. So the rest of the country's in, pretty much the rest of the country, except if you're working shift work, is in bed by now. You know, I know the rest of the world, it listens in on the internet. So, you know, it does depend. But, you know, probably the biggest base would be to get people out of the United States a little bit earlier in the night. So, okay. Yeah, so I'll log back in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to look real quick and see, and okay, if there's anybody in there wanting to ask a question, but I'm also going to talk about a little bit what they do, the different colored ones. Oh yeah, we know that, right? We know that they're different colors, they do different things, and I don't see anybody chatting or asking a question. See, I think the chat's enabled. Yeah, so it is true. They do, and and what you read about it is right. If you've done any research into the orbs, that's exactly what they do, and that's exactly what they told me before I started reading all the literature on it. You know, it was. I mean, before I started reading any literature on what orbs do and their colors and all that, I'd probably been having contacts with them for, man, so, because I created the page in January, had the idea about a month before. Yeah, I had the idea about a month or two before, but something was holding me up, and what I don't remember is what it was. Usually have a photographic memory, but there was something that was preventing me from getting it going. Some little glitch, you know, like Facebook will have. But yeah, it's true. The different colored orbs have different meanings, and the stereotypical meanings that you see, that's pretty much is what they do. You know, that's what they do. That's exactly what they do. So mainstream has got it right as far as that goes. You know, you take, and this is something I've experienced with with most of them, so I know. Now I've seen them all, but there's a few of them that I just saw that were there. It's not like I consciously was having anything done to me by them. Mine were mainly by, okay, the green ones offered me a lot of healing during that time frame. Especially I was going through one of my divorces during that time. The green ones were really there to heal me. And blue's my favorite color, but the blue ones kept me calm through a lot of spells. Lots of it. Lots of them. You know, and I got a lot of love vibrations from the pink ones. You know, but mainly, and then the rainbow one. The rainbow one is like the rainbow one is kind of like the mothership of the collective, you might say, okay? You got the different color ones, and then you got the rainbow one, and that's kind of that is what I got from them, right? So, and in being that mothership of that team of orb ships, or collectives. The rainbow one has definitely the most souls on it, at least in, from what I saw. And the way they'd explained it to me is that they have all of those. They have specialists from all of those different orb ships, right, on there, and just more of them. So that's what they do, okay. And there are some people that only see the certain colored orbs, So I'm trying to think of it. There's a few that I never really seen. Yeah, fortunately, there's one I only saw once. Let me tell you about that. There is one. If you see these guys, you probably don't want to. The black orbs. Okay. Yeah, they're not exactly who you would want to have come over and hang out. If you're going to have any of the orbs come over, that they'd be the ones not to come around. I only had the misfortune of seeing them once, and thankfully it had really nothing to do with me. I'll just put it to you like this, man. I had a friend visiting, okay? He needed a place to stay. He was staying there for a while, for a couple weeks with me. And he was really bad and heavy into not just alcohol, but he was using a lot of methamphetamine, quite a bit of stuff, man. And he was a good guy. He is a good guy at heart, okay? But he was having a lot of trouble emotionally, and he was going through a bad relationship breakup. And one night when the orbs were over, I saw him. He was sitting down, and I almost did a double take. I looked over at him, looked again, and I saw an orb over him that was kind of clear, but it started turning more black. I mean, like black, like almost pitch black, not quite, but it got there almost. And I looked at it, and I looked at it again, and I must have stared at it for about a minute, wondering what in the hell am I going to say. And I looked at the other orbs around, and I made a telepathic kind of nod to them. And I remember the gold one looked at me with this look on my face, and then a few of the others came by and looked at me, and it was like they went into this side room where he was sitting, and they started kind of swirling around in the room, and then that black one was gone. I don't know if they chased that energy off or not, but man, it was it was weird. I wouldn't say it scared the hell out of me, but it was it was a little eerie considering the circumstances. Now, had the other orbs not been around, I might have been a little bit more I probably wouldn't have went to bed that night till morning, to tell you the truth. I would have been a little bit kind of weirded out by it, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, and as far as what these guys do, okay, so we've talked about the blue one. The green and the blue one work really well together, because if somebody needs some healing, right, usually what'll happen is, and this is how it's explained to me, they're kind of like brother orb ships. They travel all together, but the green and the blue one kind of travel by each other through the dimensions down to here, and has their humans like us up in those higher dimensions that are able to, be in their human bodies on their planets, right? A little lighter human bodies like ours, but to come down here, they have to, get into that. They slowly, as they're coming down through, space, morph completely into the orb. So that's kind of interesting to watch. I've had a couple of people that have caught that on camera before with a high-tech camera as that's going on in space, but that's a whole other story, and I can't really explain how it happens. You have to see it to have it done. And then some places they come right from the planet in the orb, so man, it just depends. But some of them, a couple of the different orbs have a couple different functions that they perform, though. It's not just that they do this or that they do necessarily that. You've got these. Some people consider it an orange orb, but they look gold to me. I know Yvonne took some pictures the other day that were really gorgeous, the gold ones, and I had forgotten, and she posted some not too long, and I'd forgotten that duh, the gold ones were one of the main ones I saw, and I was like, no, I only saw those a few times. No, I saw them all the time. It's just that I was paying more attention to the rainbow one and the pretty green one and blue one. The gold ones, they're kind of just a, they're a protective spirit, but they're the kind of protective spirit that it kind of wants to be your friend. You kind of get a friendly feeling from them that they're just there, and that's what I got too. Right, is that they weren't, they weren't the kind of spirit guide that was just going to be, they were mainly your leader. Right, these spirit guides they try to act like your friend. And that's pretty much the definition of them, and that's the vibe I got from those guys. Period. They were great to have there, but that's, they were just a friend, and, oh, the white ones, yeah, they're angelic. The white ones are angelic. The white and clear ones are, they're angelic orbs, and they're just there to kind of, to be, really. I've seen them a bit, the silver ones a few times, the white ones a couple times, but they kind of just hung out in the background, and that's pretty much what they're to do. So they all perform, different functions, and it's more so of what you need at the time. If you're having contact with them, whatever one is what you need is the one that comes and visits you, because they all play their role. Red orbs. Okay, red orbs. That's a good one. I never really dealt with them too much. Don't really remember seeing them. The definition, of course, of the red orb is it's kind of a, they offer kind of a loving energy, like, and the pink ones are more of a, they're two different kinds of love. One's kind of like a romantic love, like that you need if they're trying to help fix you with that, and the other one's more of a, just like a friendship love that you need help with. Okay, the red one is more of a passionate one, right? It's more of that kind of a thing, whereas the pink one's trying to get you some like friendly love that you need, like family love, if that makes sense. There's nothing real. I mean, this isn't really any kind of rocket science in dealing with them. It's just the only thing is dealing with them and seeing them is what's phenomenal, right? Once you get to know them and talk to them, they don't. I mean, look, I'd have them over, and there would be nights I'd just smile at them and look at them, and they'd be cool that they were there, and I really wouldn't have anything to ask them after a while. I mean, because what more could I want to know? I was already doing all my research. They really couldn't predict anything to me, so I couldn't be Nostradamus, just understand that. But what they could do is you could read them. You could, like I said, this is just how the future is anyway. You could get to the point where you understood, okay, there's a scenario going on in the world, and you understand that, okay, if we go this way, this is going to happen. If we go that way, that's going to happen. And then if we, and they can trace it down an intricate trail for you, right? Whereas, you're going to go down this path, and then you're going to go down this path. But if you go down that other path to start with, you're probably going to go over to this path. They can do that. But after a while, and this is the thing. This is why they're not necessarily there full time with you for the rest of your life. Oh, you can get to them if you want, but as far as hanging around you all the time in your face, right? Because you learn how to map things like that, right? And the thing is, one time what they told me was, it was somebody from the Gold Orb told me that, the problem with them actually too also making a prediction to me is that, look, I could get up off my chair, and if I'm going to step to my right, it's going to be one thing. If I'm going to step to my left, it's going to be another. So whatever, like, timeline they give me, right, I could get up they said, and this was kind of mind-blowing a little bit. They said I could get up off my chair and step the way that I wasn't going to, and I can completely change the whole thing. Completely throw it completely off, so it's really not about that. If you have guides that are actual future predictors, I mean, hey, amazing, you know what I mean, that can predict it dead on, and that's probably out there. But I'd be careful, just take it for what it is. I mean, if they're right most of the time, then hey, you got a really great thing going. But, if they're not, or, you know, it's a, it's a bum deal. It's like a zonk on a game show, and it's never right. I mean, if it's, put it this way, if it's like if it's a typical, like, one of these people that claim that the world's going to end on a certain date, or, you know what I mean, and then it never happens. Well, of course it never has happened that we know of in our reality. But, I mean, I'd be careful of that, because, well, obviously it's a bunch of bullshit. And if it wasn't, if it was the one time it was right, we're really not going to know anyway. So, it's kind of fruitless to go that route with it. I mean, and people will buy it all the time. I mean, there's this one pastor, I don't know, a friend's family of mine, Joe, they just love this guy I'm not going to say his name, it wouldn't be rude. I would have in years past said it, but I'm trying to be not about that, but I'll just give you the example. I mean, the guy has predicted in this century that the world's going to end 4 separate times. So, but it's, you know what though, hey man, they got paid, it's a good hustle. Right, Orbs? Yeah, they're like laughing about it, they know. They have a great sense, that's another thing, they have a great sense of humor. They do. When you start getting into about 60, well, so the 6th dimension is really the first generation that you can contact beings. Of course, in the 5th dimension, you can see them, and you can have a little bit of contact with them. But it's really not until that next one in the 60 where most people have a full-on contact with them, right? Not just a visual and a wink and a nod and a cup of coffee. It's usually in the 6th dimension. So, all ascended beings like that have a sense of humor, but where it really shows is in beings from about, the 6th dimension all the way up into about the 10th. You start getting in the 11th, 12th, and 13th, they do, but it's more of angelic realms, and it's just kind of, they have a good sense of humor, but, they'll just kind of look at you with a 1,000-yard stare, and, any kind of joke you try to telepathically tell them is so far below them, they don't even, it doesn't register. It's like, they don't, yeah, they don't catch on to it. I mean, they do. They catch on to it so much that they don't. So, but they have a great sense of humor. They're wacky. And I believe them too. The authors of Larkma, Pia Orlean and Colin Smith, they live out of Ashland, Oregon, which is about 3 hours south of me. I live on the Oregon coast. Plus, I think they still have their home in Ashland too, or I mean in Mount Shasta, and then Shasta's about another, Shasta's about another 2 hours from them south and over to the east. So that's a couple pretty cool hip places to have a house in. I mean, Shasta, ask anybody that's been there, it's wonderful. It's about 4.5 hours from me down south. And then Ashland is a really cool college, just a cool hip little town, right? It's not really huge. It's not like a big Mecca university or anything like that, like the U of O is, or even Oregon State, or other big universities. But Ashland's really cool and chill too. Now 10 miles to the north of it is a big area called Medford, Oregon, and really Medford's just clogged and smogged, but you go 10 miles south to Ashland, it's beautiful, and of course another 20 miles south and you're in California. And that's when you cut over and head over into Shasta, and Shasta's on that route over towards Nevada, if people that are going to Reno. But back when they were writing, when they had that book, and then they wrote another one after that one, and I don't know what it is. I own it. It's in a box somewhere. I have them both, and if I don't, that's what I'm saying is I'm starting to get towards 50, and my photographic autistic memory is drained. And yes, I do have Pleiadian autism. Just did a show on it the other day. I've never read the book called Pleiadian Autism because, I have it. I'm a Pleiadian and I have autism, so I already know. Plus, I had a little issue with the authors of that book. They wanted me to, this was about 9 years ago, I don't know. They wanted me to do a show interviewing them about the book, and I was glad to do it. I thought I was stoked to do it. And then, share that information around Facebook to I don't know, 60 or 70 groups. And so they canceled once, they canceled twice, they canceled 3 times, they canceled 4 times, and I was like, man, I don't think so. And they came to me this time, the lady came to me and is like, well, I'll pay you $20 if you do it. And I'm thinking, No, but I said to him, you know what? Okay, look, I wanted to do it anyway, so I'm like, okay, if they're willing to, maybe they're actually, something did happen 4 times to where they had to cancel at the last second. So I said, okay. I said, but I'll tell you what. I said, why don't you, for a good faith effort, why don't you, so I know, why don't you put 10 of it down? And I thought, okay, whatever. I mean, and they're like, the ladies, no, oh, no, I can't do that. It has to be done, and all the information has to be shared first. And first of all, I'm a gullible sucker. I mean, I don't take really shit from nobody when it counts, but, if there's something like that, I'll do anything for somebody for the cause like that, right? I'm like, I'm thinking, really? You think I'm going to skip town with your $10, right? But yet you won't give it done to me, even though, I'm going to go do all that for you, right? Okay. Okay. So I said, okay, we bickered about it for a second. I was kind of just, playing a Pleiadian head game like I'm a mastermind at doing with people that are like that, trying to screw around. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what. How about you put $5 down? How about you put $5 down? That's it. And I'll tell you, how about you put $5 down and that's all you have to pay? Oh, no, can't do that. Can't do that. So, and why I was sitting there even screwing around with it, I don't know. I was bored probably. And I'm like, okay, We go back and forth. I'm like, hey, I got it. I'll tell you what. Why don't you put $1 down to my PayPal? Why don't you send me $1? $1 down. Oh, no. I mean, really, I wouldn't believe it if it was any of you telling it to me. $1. I'm like, they're like, oh, no. And I'm like, at that point, I was bored with dealing with the lady. I'd already had my fun playing with her little tiny mind. You know what I mean? So God love her. I hope that, everybody's got their own path that they're on. There are people that could play me like a fiddle. I mean, I'm not an idiot. I know that. So, it's not a matter of thinking I'm on my high horse. There are people that could take me for a ride, and I get it. But so that's just kind of how that kind of thing goes, right? But it makes us more. I think the orbs kind of chose me, maybe because of that. I'm not saying that everybody that has contact with them has autism, has that kind of. And Pleiadian autism is different, by the way, than the autism that people have here, that kids that have here that aren't necessarily incarnated from either that or any star system, period. Okay, because they do exist, but the autism is different. It's a different kind of an autism. There are a lot of same characteristics of it, but the Pleiadian autism is generally locked into one category. It's like a high functioning autism all the way around. It's not a wide spectrum of an autism. And it's not necessarily whatever you want to call autism here, born out of a trait, born out of a chemical. I don't know. That's for people to decide that want to argue and bicker about it. I know that the Pleiadian autism is part of the incarnation. It's not from anything, any chemical per se, right? So, that's that. But the orbs, they stuck around for a long time. Like 6 years, probably 6 years, I could see them all the time around me. A good 5.5 at least, right? And then that was it. And then they're still there if I want to access them, right? They just don't. They're not in full force around me. Plus, I needed a lot of protection at that time too, especially during the early part of that, going through some rough stuff, and and not to mention, when you awaken and that stuff hits you fast and furious, it's it's wild. I mean, I probably didn't see them, until I was having telepathic communication with the Pleiadians before even the ones before Larkma came before them. So, there was probably a good year before I had any, what do you call it, visible contacts with them. Well, no, that's not true. I had them at night in the sky. I had telepathic communications with them, and at night in the sky, I could see the Merkabas and stuff out of the, which a lot of those are out of the 9th dimension. Some out the 8th, some as far up as the 10th. But generally, it's kind of flows in that, a lot of the 8th dimensional beings you see. And wait a minute, I would see them too. but I would just see them. I wasn't having anything but like them smiling at me and stuff. It wasn't until later, after that I'd had the contacts with the orbs out of the seventh dimension, that then I was able to have like telepathic one-on-one talks with, the eighth dimensional cloud beings out of the sky. I don't know, same thing within the sky. Same thing with the ones in the sky at night. Like I would see them, and then I'd have telepathic communications when I got in the house or whatever. But it was later on when I was having direct one-on-ones with them, as far as knowing that they were, And again, I'd put them through the test like I did the orbs. Make them go in a certain pattern in the sky, and then do it again. And sometimes I'd do it 10 times over. All right. So there's really nothing to it. I mean, I can imagine what it would be like to be into this, to be passionate about the Starseed Lightworker community, and not to have one-on-one eye contacts with them, right? You get frustrated. I've talked to people. These are great, intelligent, open-minded, completely as awakened and brilliant as I am, if not more, because they've had to do more of the work to look into it, And they haven't had any, we all have contacts, but they haven't had any, what they could say would be absolute, like, eye-to-eye contacts with, whether it's a light being body, or whether it's them in an orb, or like Larkma, or in a Merkaba, so I feel for them. I really do. I wish that, they all could have that, and someday we all will, as the dimensions start to collide together, right? And all the realities come together. The veil is thinning. Well, the veil's been thinning for a long time now, and it wasn't something that was going to just happen overnight, but that's kind of the case with it. So, I'm a little bit rusty with it, because I have not had the orbs around me in full force. They're here now, but they're not visible. I can almost, like, my eyes are closed right now, but I can see them in the same pattern that they're around me. And they the only thing that they do want to say is that a little bit about me, that they really felt that, like, they needed to be around me, like, come down in full force like they were at the time. And yes, they said that I asked a lot of questions, some of them kind of humorous to them, because it wasn't really anything that they could do but give me innate possibilities. But I was able to verify stuff from them that I had read out of, say, Chariots of the Gods, like everybody would read when they would awaken, even still back then. And even by then, the book was, the book was 45 years old by then. And, Sitchin's 12th Planet was in 76. So by the time that came around, I mean, that book was 35 years old. And Von Daniken's was like 43 years old, out of 68. So... but I made sure I read all those books, those landmark books, and I own all of Von Daniken's. I think I own Twilight of the Gods, Odyssey of the Gods, Chariots of the Gods, Gold of the Gods, Gods and Astronaut, Return of the Gods, Eyewitness of the Gods. Yeah, you get the point, And Sitchin read the 12th Planet. I don't know if I must have been having a real fever during that time, because that's not like me to read anything that big. And the thing is huge, and it's dry reading. It's great reading, but man, listen to the audiobook unless you're a real hardcore reader. And read another one of his books too. That wasn't as bad. And what the hell was that one called? Enki, some of the Lost Civilization of Enki. Exactly. I mean, he's a pioneer. Sitchin was great. The thing is, like, with his, you need somebody with an analytic, an accountant, kind of a black and white thinker mind when you're talking about having to interpret the Sumerian tablets. Man. And the funny thing is, because of his mind, because it was like just plain black and white thinking, he got about, they say, about 80%, and this is my vibe too for my guides, is that he interpreted about 80% of those right. There was about 20% he was off on. It was only because he was such an analytical, one-track-minded thinker, you know. What I would have loved to have seen was him be able to hook up with Charles Darwin, you know, the guy who discovered evolution. I think that what Darwin's problem was is he didn't have, if he would have had, if he would have been open to and had the ability to have Sitchin's work back then, I think that, you know, he would have, the theory of evolution would be pretty solid in its 3D basic form, you know what I mean? Because it's not exactly like that, but it would have closed up most of the gaps, I think. Yeah, pretty much, so, you know, and everybody has their, you know, everybody like that. Edgar Casey, you know, you take Edgar Casey, one of the first major known channels. He was about 93% right. His accuracy, Dr. Casey was about 93% right, and I always chalked it up that other 7% that he wasn't right on. I mean, probably because he was one of the first to ever do it. I bet a great deal of that 7% he was wrong on was just because he wasn't interpreting it right, because he didn't have anything to base it off of. But 93% is still pretty bad ass, and, you know, for the first one to do it, that, you know, that we know of course, people have channeled forever and in different timelines and stuff, but I mean, we're talking in the first known public one to put work out there in our modern incarnation, right? And Von Däniken, what a hero. Sitchin too. Yeah, the two of them. I heard a funny story one time that Von Däniken was telling about it. Sitchin is, a few times a year, they respected each other very deeply because they were pioneers, but they'd get on the phone once in a while or a few times a year with each other, and I can just see the both of them with their boisterous, you know, Swiss kind of German accents talking, and what Von Däniken said is they'd pretty much agree on everything, but then they'd get into Nibiru. And you had Sitchin that always thought it was a ship that came around, or that it was a planet, right, that came around every 3,600 years, that it just rotated through. Well, Von Däniken's thing was that's what he disagreed with him on it. Eric Von Däniken thought it was a big, huge, like planet-sized mothership that came around. And you know what? And when I heard Eric Von Däniken say that, I'm like, yeah, I bet you that'd be my money. Is it, you know, and that would speak to, you know, that ties in perfectly with probably one of the one things Sitchin got wrong, because he was so analytical that he probably thought that was a planet that just rotated through every so often in that time frame. And Von Däniken was a little bit more of an outside-of-the-box thinker, because, and I'll tell you what he had to do to write Chariots of the Gods, and you'll see why he would have had to been, you know, thinking that was just a big mothership. The Anunnaki was just, yeah, and so if it's true, the story's true, which I believe most of it is, that's probably what it is. I would, you know, anybody who wants to argue that it's what Sitchin says, they're welcome to it. But so Von Däniken, before he wrote Chariots of the Gods, he was in boarding school. So now check this out. They made him write. He had to rewrite the Bible by hand in 2 separate languages, 2 foreign languages to him. Like, I mean, unlike America, people in that part of the world know 3, 4, 5, 6 languages. So, I mean, he knew them, but they weren't his, you know, the one he spoke most often. So he had to rewrite it. And he's going through and rewriting the Bible, and he's picking up on, which is true, that there had been a lot of books taken out of it in the Middle Ages. Of course, you had any mention of reincarnation taken out of there, you know, whereas the Quran pretty much kept that stuff in there. But to the you know, as far as white industrialized societies over the centuries have gone, you know, to the victor goes the spoils, and, you know, what they don't like about that book got taken out. So Von Däniken picked up on that pretty quick. He also picked up on these weird, you know, these stories that are just so, you know, like the wise men on their journey to wherever the hell they were going, you know, to the east. I'm proud not to really know, so that's good. But, you know, I do know this, that, you know, they claimed in the Bible that it was a star they were following, and Von Däniken's like, man, that's a ship. And it's like, well, no question about it. But, you know, that's kind of the ruse of the Bible, right? You're expected to believe it's a fairy tale of people in the clouds playing harps, but, you know, any kind of a ship or anything like that is ridiculous, or, you know, and it's like, you know, or the Immaculate Conception, right? Okay, so if you're going to believe in it just like that, so what's more believable? Is it more believable that, boom, you snapped a finger and a being snapped a finger, and all of a sudden now there was a baby forming inside of this woman's stomach? Or is it more believable that it's artificial insemination by some really high-tech, super advanced civilization? Well, probably I would say the latter. You know what I'm saying? Technology, if you were to see super technology and you'd never seen it before, like for instance, you're in the 1970s even, and somebody brings up this cell phone to you, an iPhone, and then to top it off, they start getting on the internet with it, right? Okay, so they start getting on the internet with it. What are you going to think that is? Magic. More than like you're going to think it's magic. Well, why wouldn't you? So the Sodom and Gomorrah war, right? I mean, it was God yelling out of a loudspeaker, and they wanted to get rid of kill everybody in the town because they were all perverts and rapists, and or how about it was just a city with a lot of corruption and filth, and both these sides had super high tech weaponry in excess of 3 times what the United States possesses now. I'd say that's a hell of a lot more likely. I mean, than a fairy tale, to me anyway. And so Von Däniken went one by one all the way through the Bible, and he's like, no, that's not how it happened. This is how it happened. So he's rewriting it, and the guy is a Christian. Keep in mind, he wasn't looking to slam the Bible, but he was being logical about it after having to reread the thing. Well, damn, if he rewrote it in 2 foreign languages, imagine how many times he had to go through it. You tell me, there's either 3 options. Either it's not true, either, one version's true or the other version's true. But I'd say the least likely version to be true would be the typical fairy tale version of the Bible, And most of these gadgets you see or hear about in the Bible, these magic rods or these whatever, they're just magic. They weren't some super high-tech weaponry, Now, I do believe that a lot of those star beings and those gods, what you would call gods, they probably had the ability to, start fire with their hand or whatever, and now I believe that part. But I believe when you're talking about the swords and the staffs and, shit like that, I believe that was probably super high-tech technology. But, who knows? Maybe it's all made up, but that would be the real incredible part, wouldn't it be, if it was all made up? But I've gotten really off the orbs here. So I'd ask them about that kind of stuff, and yeah, that's what they told me. I mean, when I get a yes or no question out of them, yes, absolutely. I even asked them about the Anunnaki one time. I asked them, what did I ask that orb? I said, are they, because I was just, starting to read that stuff too, and I was like, are what we know as the Anunnaki here, are they benevolent or are they malevolent? I said, if they're malevolent, go side to side. If they're benevolent, go up and down. And it went side to side, and it almost looked like it was tearing up. And I got this telepathic thought back from it that, they weren't very good to Earth. And, I thought, no shit. Well, I said, I think I joked with him, and I said, yeah, well, it seems like I've been finding that out. So I was reading about them and hearing about them on a lot of shows, and I was like, yeah, I've been finding that out. But, so things like that in history, that have already happened on our timeline, oh, sure, yeah, they'd clarify it for you. A lot of things, even things in 3D, believe it or not. I can't remember what I would ask them in 3D that had happened already to get clarification. The one thing, I had been asked before by a few buddies to ask them, they thought I was crazy anyway, but they asked me to ask them, what was up with JFK, and, I went and asked them, all right, yeah. Well, the answer I got back? Well, all they did was verify what I already thought happened, and it really doesn't matter what I think happened. You know what I mean? It's not for me to know or for me to say, I'll tell you on that subject. I'd rather than just burn the file. I don't want to not know. Who cares? I mean, what's the worst that could, to me, the worst thing that it could possibly be would be like a big deal to me. I mean, so let's say, JFK's wife was in on it, the vice president was in on it, the FBI, the CIA, the KGB, all of them, and even that most extreme case, to me, all these years later, would be like, it wouldn't even faze me to know. In fact, I don't want to have my time wasted by finding out, because it's really, it's not important. It's kind of good, keep it out there so you can have like a show like Coast to Coast AM, the one at night, the conspiracy rabbit hole show that, used to every once in a fluke have a decent guest on 30 years ago when Art Bell had it. But even then it was still corporatized, not as much though. But, every couple months you have a brand new JFK expert out. Oh, this is how he dies. Dude, these people have no shame, but you know what? Hey, they're getting paid, man. They're getting paid, yo. I mean, really. I mean, you can't blame them, man. They're making that bank. I mean, because, if you were just doing it for the love of it, I mean, come on, man. Come on. Yeah, at this point, I mean, oh yeah, I've got a new theory on it. All these years later, I got a new theory. Oh, like what? Aliens came down and killed him? I mean, to me, that would be more, that would be less incredible than the KGB, Jackie Onassis, Lyndon Johnson connection, in all of them, and none of them would even faze me. It'd have to be something. Boy, I'd like to get surprised by it, though. That'd be one thing. I'd really like to be shocked by it. I'm trying to think of what else it could be besides everybody in his family was in on it, and every government agency, including the, I don't know, the Future Farmers of America were in on it. I mean, what? I don't know. And, what would be the point anyway? Anybody that had anything to do with it, even some rookie hotshot out of college working for one of those agencies, even he'd be about in his 90s by now. So what? I mean, nobody that had anything that any kind of a decision-making ability about any of it would still be alive. And if they are, I mean, they're not, they wouldn't know where they were at anyway, whether they were in, the Poconos, or whether they were in the Bahamas, or whether they were in Rikers Island. I mean, so whatever. Yeah. But the orbs are going to come back again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to announce it a little bit sooner, so people can maybe send in some questions if they're not going to be here for it. And I'll do it earlier in the night, for sure. So. I don't see anybody with any questions, so I know some people are wanting to know or to watch it, but I did put the comment section up there in case anybody had any questions about, and maybe it'd be a good time to, if you had any questions per se, I'll just kind of set it kind of where you would need to go with them. Okay, that's fine. If you're going to ask a question about the past, yeah. Now, don't be a smart ass and ask them, because I'll tell you what they won't do. If you have a trigonometry question, or if you have some question like of a math problem, right? But if it's a legitimate, known, Western world historic question, they might be able to answer it for you. I've had it. Believe me, I know I'm channeling. I mean, you can try to prove, try to call me a, people want to try to call me a try to prove that I'm bullshitting, right? Well, I've been in a situation about a handful of times, oddly enough, and it surprised me, man. They were able to answer it when it was questions that were like that. No, they don't do trigonometry. Neither does Rocken Larry Locken, okay? I don't. And even if I did, it wouldn't come, it wouldn't come through me like that, because that's not a relevant question, okay? Anything like that. Or if you want to ask them about, I don't know, somebody, you're missing your car keys, whatever, something like that. They might be able to give you a thought through me to, if not find them, spur you on to that. Or if you do have a future, hey, don't, if you got a question about the future, go for it. Because what they can do is, and this can help you, they can give you innate possibilities, right? They can give you innate possibilities, and they might even ask me, to ask you just a couple of questions. I'm not going to pull a Jonathan Edwards or, some of these hucksters and, or a Sylvia Brown and ask you 55,000 questions, and try to, and make you sign a bunch of waivers, so, So I pretty much eliminated I've asked you every possible answer could be, and then I've already had you eliminate all of them. And yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. If I can't, if they don't know, they don't know. You know what I mean? I'm confident that if it's in those parameters, maybe we could get something done. And I'll go into what I'll do is I'll go into a deep meditation. A little bit the days leading up to that. This was kind of just them on the spur of the moment wanting to get out there and introduce themselves. And there are orb collectives from other parts of the star system as well. It's not just them, this particular one that I've seen. Okay, this one is just kind of the one that I have. The one that comes to me is mainly, or came to me, is Pleiadian souls out of the 7th dimension, and a lot of Lyran souls out of the 7th dimension. Now, they also do have a board. They kind of have what, like a naval fleet has. It usually it's just a captain that's ahead of a ship out at sea, but there are the bigger ones that do have rear admirals on it. The same thing with the gold. I forgot to mention this, okay? When I say angelic realms, that's because the gold, the rainbow ones, the mothership ones, they have Arcturian souls in there, okay? And to me, when you're talking about the dimensions, 11th through 13th, the Arcturians and the angelic realms are kind of intertwined. It's just like there is a collective. I'm mainly a Pleiadian guy. I'm not quite as ascended as a lot of my sisters. They're up into the Arcturian realms, or like the guys like that I came up with, like Daniel Scranton and stuff like that, who are Arcturian channelers. I've had three channelings through a collective up there, from their highest of not the highest of the high, but the highest of what we, usually think of here on Earth when we're putting it in an explanatory term, even though the dimensions are endless, the 13th dimension. There's a collective of, it's described to me, Arcturians in that the 13th dimensional angelic and Arcturian souls collective. Now, that's a combination of, they're all 13th dimensional, but Arcturian souls and ones that are getting ready to kind of graduate into the 14th dimension, the angelic souls. This is just kind of in Earth terms how they put it to me, and I ask that because I've got an analytical mind like that, as far as wanting to hear it explained to me, and things of that nature. Don't get me wrong, I don't have an analytical mind like Sitchin does. Sitchin's got a mind that's, his IQ is way superior to mine. Or maybe not, but he's more of a straightforward, analytical, numbers, textbook guy, completely dominates it. Whereas I'm kind of half and half. I got about half what he's got in textbooks, and then I got about half of it in, kind of an open-mindedness, so I'm kind of like a mix like that. But I've channeled them before too, and they're, just 3 times though, only 3 occasions with them, and it's, in fact, 2 of them were 9 years ago, and 1 of them was just about 4 or 5 months ago. So to give you an idea, they came back into my life like 1 time, and it was just like 5 months ago. And I've been thinking about them lately, and sometimes when I start thinking about them heavily, it's not just that I'm mentioning them, they come back around, Well, just like recently, I had this collective. Now, this collective, I channeled these guys I channeled them twice about 9 years ago, or 8 years ago, and then I had them visit me once about 8 years ago. There's a difference. A channel is when you're kind of just getting, we all channel 24/7. Let's get that part right. When I think of channeling, though, in that term, I think of it as when you kind of get into, for me, not a trance, but you're kind of get into a locked-in flow. A real locked-in flow, or a little slight trance, just a slight one. And it's different for some people. So I had 2 channelings from them that these guys were called the Aqua Ray Collective. They had like an all-star team on there. They were from the 8th dimension. They had this green, and these weren't orbs, but they had this green translucent energy with them. That was one collective. And the translucent energies are a collective. I channeled them once too by themselves. But the blue, and then there's the blue healing. It's the same concept with the orbs. It's just that they're a fluid color, like like a light, like somebody shines a light, instead of a solid or an orb, the shape of an orb. Okay, so they have the green healing and the blue calming, those energies. Okay, also in that collective is some dolphins from Sirius B. Okay, the Syrian Dolphin Collective is how they explained it to me. And of course, dolphins can exist out of water in the 5th dimension and higher. And these were from the 8th dimension. And then also a team of technical people in the higher dimensions, or in the 8th dimension of Pleiades, right? So it'd be like a dimension up higher. These beings were, versus the ones that are on the orbs here in the 7th, or the clear body ones in the 6th. So I channeled them twice about 8 years ago, and then, like I said, they came and visited me, and I had like a one-on-one back and forth question with them, and I put that on tape back then, or on audio. And so that was the difference. It was a questionnaire with me back and forth with them the one time, and the other twice was just downloaded information coming into me. Well, a few months back, I had them come visit again. Okay, I've kind of had a renaissance lately, I guess. It's the only difference is now I've gotten kind of older and a little bit lame in the brain, and I have to write it down when they're talking to me. It used to be where I could just pick up my phone, go to the computer, and blam, 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 right through, and I could keep up with it. Not now. I'm like, they're going faster than I can keep up with. It might be that, times have changed. I've slowed down, I've gotten older. I don't have my game anymore. Whatever it is. I just need a little bit of help now to do it. So, yeah. In fact, the last time I was like, okay. I'm like, hold on. I'm getting a pad and pen, Didn't have time to get to the phone or get it going and everything. I just figured I'd scribble down notes with it, and I could kind of wing the rest of it. Yeah. But I'll tell you, it's a lot more pure form when you're able to, have it just come right through and go to the computer and boom, 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 boom. Because when you're writing it down and you have to go back and do it, I always sound like I feel like I'm forcing it or something, or it sounds to me like that. So, but, that's it. And these collectives are all out there, once you've contacted them, just because they don't be a stranger, say hi to them. They'll find you. I started talking about the aquaways. It's weird. And then they showed up not too long later. Maybe either what happened was I was preparing for them to come and didn't quite consciously know it, or, they got wind I was gossiping about them and they came around. So, that happens. But, the orbs, that's just the ones that I've dealt with from here. Now, I have witnessed, but I've never really made contact with it. I witnessed some from Sirius, right? I've seen some from Sirius. Whether they were, maybe I got a download from it. I don't recall that. I just recall seeing them, and and sometimes that happens too. They're more of a the Syrian orbs are more how would I put it? Let's see their description. They're colorful too, like the ones I channel, but they're more of a their colors is more of a solid one that goes, up and down. If you were to look at like a Syrian orb, it doesn't, and it seemed to me that it wasn't like exactly circular like the Lyran and the Pleiadian ones are, It didn't seem, it seemed like it was more of more of a kind of an octagonish kind of a shape, and it seemed like their different colors, which are beautiful, it seemed like they were up and down, kind of in that kind of a pattern. That's just what I got. Either, and it's all subjective, people. Either, well, it's a crazy problem to have, I'll tell you that. If I was going nuts all those times, and hey, I very well could have, but what a cool way to go crazy, huh? Didn't really do any harm to anybody else, and it got to see all kinds of cool colors, and, and think I was talking to people and getting information, when probably maybe I was just pulling out of my own mind. But I'll tell you, it was all dead on. Anything that they ever told me was either verifying what I knew, or leading me on to something that I knew, or still giving me the answer, okay, or being honest and saying, yeah, we don't know. We just don't know because we deal in parallel realities. Anything you do could change what we tell you. So, well, that's just how it is. But, yeah, we'll do a little more organized next time, and Well, maybe maybe the week after next we'll do it again on a, I would say this next coming Saturday night, but I'd like at least a week. So why don't we shoot for this? If anybody, they're going to hear this broadcast, why don't we shoot for, well, today's Sunday, or it's Monday now, but why don't we shoot for, say, the 28th of this month on a Saturday at, say, now, because it's got to be about 9 o'clock. Well, it'll still have to be midnight on the East Coast. I could try for, that's going to have to be when I do it, Mom. It'll have to be, and so I'm sorry, UK people. It'll be, it'll be 5 o'clock in the morning your time. I apologize. I know. Or maybe, I can tentatively think of another time, but I'll get it out there at least within a week in advance so we know, and put out some questions, or, you're the ability to send them in. And what I'll do is, I'll just create an event for it, and people can type in the questions on the event page on the Angelic and Pleiadian Rainbow Orbs. Now, listen, here's the deal. That's been the name of it since it's been in existence. The name of this page has been the Angelic and Pleiadian Rainbow Orb page, Rainbow Orbs page. What I've done is I've submitted a name change to it, though, to Facebook, and just reversing the two names. The name of it now is Pleiadian Angelic Rainbow Orbs. Pleiadian and Angelic Rainbow Orbs. What I've done is I submitted after 9, almost 10 years now, Angelic Pleiadian Rainbow Orbs. Yeah, so that's what, I just got a wild hair to do that. It sounds better, and, what the hell. I should have done it like that in the first place, but, everything happens for a reason, a time, a season, the space, the season, the reason, the treason, I don't know. Anyway, so that'll be that, and, if you have any questions, like, if there's any questions you have in the meantime, you can privately message me. What I wouldn't do, though, is okay, I'm going to go over this real quick. This is one of my biggest bitches with Facebook, because I have like 20 pages I've helped, that I own. I've helped create, I don't know, people create, I don't know, another, I wouldn't even know, another 40 more maybe over the years. So it used to be that until about 2019 that I know of, I don't know, I was off for 5 years. I just didn't do it. I just was on Facebook, but I didn't do any shows or anything, or really mess with my pages that much, from about 2019 till earlier this year. Okay, so when you have a page, and believe me, a lot of you probably do, it's a real pain in the ass when you have 20 of them. That was my real brilliant decision to create like 20 of them over a few years, 10 years ago. You have to go into the page. You have to then log into that page to do anything on that page. And the same thing with the chat. Then you have to go log into the chat to get messages from people that messaged into the page. Now, you get people that don't know anything about it. Why would that be different? Well, it used to be like this, and you'd think it would go in reverse. That it would have started out this way now and go the other way. So it used to be that you could have as many pages as you wanted to, and say when you went to your page to go post something to it as your page, it did it automatically. You were already, once you went to that page, you were already that page name. You didn't have to switch over. You didn't have to do it at all. In fact, if you wanted to comment on there under your name, you had to go into some setting and do it. But big deal. That really wasn't something people did a lot. Usually you would go there to, post as your page. And the problem with that too is back then, which was good, is any kind of messages that people would message into the page, that would come to your Facebook name, your timeline name. Okay? Just like you could use your timeline name, go in there, and it would automatically show you as that page when you posted it, right? Now, now you got to not only you got to switch over into go up, hit a tab, go down, find that page, hit it, takes a few seconds, twirls around. In our society today, to me, it's an eternity, and it's like a few seconds, maybe most. But then it doesn't stop there. Then you also have to go back into Messenger and change it back into or change it to the page to get the messages. Just because you did it on the, on the timeline of the page, it doesn't do it for the messages. Yeah, and I knew it, but I didn't really think about that till recently, and then I realized there was a really nice lady who was, trying to set me up with an orb, not set me up, but turn me on to her orb collection that she has on Instagram, okay? And, her message had been in there forever, and I just didn't think to even go look at messages like that. I figured that they would come to me, that was still, well, I didn't think anything really, but I didn't know it till I stumbled upon it, and then I went down looking at all my pages, and I'm like, man, people have been messaging in, and I didn't know to look, so, yeah, that was kind of thing. Amazing Orbs is the name of this lady's Instagram. You think we've got some killer orbs on here? You got to go see her collection. I mean, she's got she's got close to 4,000 pictures of orbs. There was like 3,996 the last time I looked. So she's got like 4,000 orb pictures. She's out of Australia. And so, yeah. No, I thought I thought me and Yvonne were the only game in town. Yvonne gets the pictures, and, I rob them from her and take all the credit. No, I'm just kidding. Well, sometimes. But, yeah, they're amazing. They're just amazing. They're beautiful to look at, even if you don't have connections with them, and the lady that gets all those pictures, she was asking, she sees them all the time, and she was asking me how I knew. Okay, and it was a good question. She's all, Larry, how do you know that they're, that they're Pleiadian, and Lyran, and that, and this was not too long ago she asked me, and I said, the way that I know it, this is what I told her. I said, it was through telepathy, okay? Because I saw them at first, I was having contact telepathically with the Pleiadians, and it just came to me that they might be right in my mind as I'm looking at them, and then I focused my attention to looking at them and making contact and asking them if they were from Pleiades, and what come back to me was exactly what I had said, that they were from the 7th dimension of the Pleiades, okay? That slowly came into me, and that some of the souls on there that traveled in this orb fleet, I guess that's a good name for them, the orb fleet. I don't know why I never made the connection to call it that. I'm a big history buff of, navies across the planet, and, I've never been in the military, but I know every single United States rank there is in every single military branch, probably because of my autism, I know all that. And so it was through telepathy like that, and then what I told her was it was a lot of synchronicities. Now, I wish what I would have done was I wish I would have been, somebody who was really technically, or not, but like scholastically in tune with keeping notes. I wish that I would have, I keep a lot of things, but it's mainly things I printed out. I wish I would have been writing this stuff down and, keeping it on, keeping tabs of it as it was going as to how my contacts, I mean, I know how they all started. That's well documented. If anybody really wants a good story on how I got contacted with the Pleiadians, and there's a lot of, and I'm not unique to it, but mine is synchronistic too. It started off with my mother-in-law visiting, and I had a headache. No, don't get me wrong. It wasn't because of her that I had the migraine, but I did, and I went to bed early, like 10 o'clock that night. Well, and I was supposed to listen to, I listened to Politics back then, a station that we'd pick up out of San Francisco back then, which is 500 miles to the south of us here in Oregon. After dark, you could get it. And so I turned the radio on, even though I had a migraine. It wasn't on. They were, doing station repairs. Turned it to some, I think it was even coast to coast. They were talking about something, right? Oh, they were talking about that deal in the 40s where supposedly the Greys sold weapons to Eisenhower, okay? Well, they mentioned the name Pleiadians on there. The show wasn't about the Pleiadians. They mentioned the Pleiadians in passing, that they were one of the, star races that tried to deal with our government and help them with cures to medicine. Government didn't want that. So all they said was the word, and then they went on. They said the word Pleiadians. I'd never heard it before. Wasn't a big Coast fan, but I had listened to it over the years. In the 90s when Art Bell was running it, I'd come home, from closing when I was a manager in high school at McDonald's, and then for a year or two after high school when I was assistant store manager at an Arby's. You know, I'd come home late night and I'd hear him, you know, and sometimes when my political station at first was boring, I'd turn in art, and, you know, I thought it was just kind of, he was okay, you know, it wasn't my thing then, but I had heard a lot of the great people that we know of today on there. I'd heard Sitchin once, and never heard the Pleiadians mentioned, even though they had, like, Randolph Winters on there, and a Billy Meyer guy, and a few of them on there, but I just hadn't heard the name ever. And it was weird, because most people that I've ran into, they're Pleiadian contactees that are from my era of waking up. I can think of probably, about 16 to 17 examples, seriously. And every single one of them, their stories are unique, but kind of we're all alike. One thing is, though, none of these people, and there's no rhyme or reason for most of them, none of these people, including me, had ever heard of the Pleiadians until their awakening was starting. Yeah, isn't that weird? They'd never... Well, that's not true. One did. There was one that had... What she had heard was, in high school, she had heard the name Pleiades. She had heard the name Pleiades in her astronomy class. And that was just it. And she had remembered hearing it. Just the term Pleiades. Just that. So she was the one exception, but even that, you know, I mean... Yeah, isn't that strange? And there's probably a few more I just can't remember, because I probably met 6,000 or 7,000, seriously, like a hey, hi kind of thing. I probably had like one conversation with in 14 years, 13 years. I probably talked with about 1,000. I probably conversed real hardcore with about, I don't know, 300 or 400 at least once, you know, and then as you go down, you know, more and more and more, but, you know, so that's quite a few people. And Pleiadian contacts, I wouldn't want to even know. Pure Pleiadian contacts, like, that are just deal with them mainly, they're incarnated from there, I mean, because I have dealt with other star races too, but probably... I don't know. I wouldn't even know, but I know that, you know, that I'm thinking of the example of about 16 or 17 that, at least, that have the same story I do, that they had never heard of them until it was like, bam, their first step towards that awakening process. You know, that rush part where you're getting there, where you're there, and now here you go, you know, within days, literally. Yeah. So that's it. And then the orbs didn't come around until... Yeah, they came around about a year into my contacts with them. Telepathically first, about 6 months, and then the LARP dudes, you know, for the other 6th dimension. So what I'm thinking is I was probably having some 5th dimensional Pleiadian telepathic contacts, you know, and I got rushed through, you know, for 6 months. And, you know, in fact, I want to say that it was, you know, it was 5th dimensional Pleiadian contact, those telepathic 6 months. And then the 6th dimension, you know, for 6 months, and then after a year I went to the 7th, and so on and so on. But, yeah. But anyway, you know, the Orbs page is cool. It'll be 10 years old coming in January, so, yeah. Anyway, people, it's late here. On the West Coast, it's so late, it's early, and it's so early, it's like, Jesus, what time is it? It's late. 12:54 a.m. Means it must be about 10 o'clock London time. Alright. Anyway. Alright, people, we're going to do this. So I'm going to get it set up, and we'll have a little bit more, we'll be a little bit earlier on the 28th, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You figured that out. I know that's, midnight on the East Coast. Right? And you do the math, but... if you have any questions, send it in. I mean, and if you do now even, send them into me. Oh, by the way, yeah, don't message them into the page. Send them to me, Larry Locken. If you've never seen me before, if you search in LARRYLOCKEN, there's a couple of us. One of them's my dad, the old gray-haired guy with the beard, that handsome devil. That's my father, that's not me. I'm the guy, I don't know. I'm shooting rainbow rays off my arms, and if anybody's ever wondered what the hell that was when they're seeing my picture, that was kind of interesting too. I'll tell you this real quick. And it was really strange. In fact, it was that guy I was mentioning earlier, the friend of mine who had the black orb above his head. Well, this was weird. This was on a, I don't know, this was on a Saturday morning. And this guy, keep in mind, he doesn't, he he's like me. He don't want to go out to the cold Pacific Northwest beach at early in the morning. But he wakes me up and he's got, I lived only at the time, I lived less than what you would call in Europe a kilometer. I lived about 3/4 of a mile from this, from the sand that he took me to. He's like, man, we gotta get up. I just have this overwhelming need. Let's go down to that beach right down there. Cause he said the beach, and I'm like, man, you want to drive clear out there? Cause that was about another 3 or 4 miles to one of the main ones, but there's a little piece of beach about 3/4 of a kilometer away. He's like, no, we gotta go. And he was really insistent. I'm like, huh. I'm like, man, okay. He's like, I just need to go down there for a second. It was really weird, though. And for some reason, it wasn't like me to just say, okay, I'm not even going to tell you on air what I probably would have told him that time of morning typically. And like, going into that one, he's like, okay. So he's got his camera with him, and we walk down on there, and I'm like, okay, well, what are we doing? And he's all, you see that driftwood there? And I'm like, yeah. And he's all, why don't you just sit there? I want to take a picture of it. And it was really weird. He's not like the nostalgia type either. I'm like, oh, okay. He's all, I want some pictures. We're getting older, and I'm, okay. And he's all, here, why don't you do this? Why don't you take your fingers and point over at that driftwood? And I'm like, okay. And again, and he snap. And he's all, okay, good. That's all I wanted to take. And then and I said, okay, did you get anything good? I'm like, I hope that was worth it. And he stopped me, and he's all, oh my God, you got to see this. I'm like, what? I took a look at it, and man, I mean, it looked more vivid on his camera than it does in the picture. Man, it looked like these multicolored rainbow rays were just shooting off of me onto that driftwood. And I'm like, wow, man. And then I was like, that was, hell, it was worth it. Man, I've milked the hell out of that picture for all kinds of things. So, yeah, it was a long time ago. I like to think I like to think I look like that now. No, I look about 30 years older than that, and it was only about 10 years ago. So that's what that's about. And that's exactly what it was. It was weird. Again, synchronicity though, and then the same thing too. Under my coat on that shirt, I had a Pink Floyd shirt on with the Prism of Lyra, the Prism of Lyra, Lyran star system. Second oldest human race in the galaxy. Of the hominoids like us, of course, that are like us. Arcturians would be the first. So that's about and what we don't know is who seeded them here. We don't know. For my channelings, the Arcturians were humans about like us, about a quintillion. If you were to put it in Earth terms, about a quintillion years ago. Got that several times. What I could never get, though, is who some human race from another galaxy from outside the Milky Way seeded them here. And I don't know. That'd be an interesting one to find out. I don't know. I ran that by several people, and yeah, it's not anything anybody's taken up. And what I'm wondering is if it's something we're really meant to know yet. Because, somebody had to put them here, and think about how young our galaxy is. So whoever seeded them here over a quintillion plus infinity years ago, they're still very, like, nothing, old, comparatively speaking, too. It just goes to show you it's so old, the time doesn't even exist. I mean, it's so vast. It's so old that it was just like a blink ago. And the end of it's just a blink again and a blink back, and it's really weird. But, so that be it. So, this is actually only my second Facebook Live I've ever done. I've done, I don't know, close to 1,000 hours probably total on different radio platforms. But, yeah, it's weird. This is my first one, of course, on the Orbs page, and that's it now, yeah. So, this is Rocken Larry Locken. It's gonna be weird saying this, but for the Pleiadian and for the Angel, yeah. Now, you know it's going to change the Pleiadian and Angelic Rainbow Orbs page. I'm out. Alright. Boy, that was brutal. Man, I sucked. Let's see. No. Okay, people, I'm still here. I'm trying to turn it off. Did I have a comment up there? Oh, somebody was watching. Okay. Oh, finish, yeah. This is about, you know, YouTube changed their format too after I came back, and it took me like a minute looking for the X that was right there to figure out it was the X I had to click.